Hey guys, happy live day. How's everybody holding up? While I'm waiting for everyone to join, I'll just throw out the disclaimer. Nothing that we talk about today here is medical advice, obviously. I don't know your unique situation, and so I expect you to use kind of common sense. Make sure you're talking to the professionals you need to be talking to. We're not diagnosing, we're not treating, we're not prescribing. We're just chatting, and all of this is about education and inspiration. So, I expect you guys to take what you learn here and dive deeper and dig in. But I hope you guys are all doing well. If you're on the island that is your home and you feel kind of stranded, I'm with you. I am with you. I work from home, so it's not like much different, but I don't know what it is. It must be like mental. If you feel like you can't go anywhere or leave your house or go to the gym, it makes you go crazy. That's how I feel right now. So I'm definitely losing it a little bit. If we can't tolerate collagen, can casein always be substituted in recipes, or it won't always work? Sorry, totally unfamiliar with this stuff. No. So you guys have to understand that collagen is kind of the way that we're getting gelatinous foods in our diet. It's kind of the cheat in a sense. Unless you're eating the whole animal and you're practicing that style of eating, which is traditional styles of eating, meaning we're eating organ meats and we're eating joints and we're making broth out of bones and things like that. If you're not getting those things regularly into your diet, you need some source of gelatin. And so I implement collagen a lot into my programs because it's easy. People are looking for the easiest possible way to get a gelatinous food in, and collagen can do that for you. But if you can't tolerate collagen, then gelatin's going to be that second best. And remember, we need that variety of amino acids for proper metabolic function. We need those amino acids found in gelatinous foods for proper liver function and gut health. If we don't have them, we're going to see a chink of our armor missing, or there's going to be a chain, we're going to have our health as a chain, there's going to be a link missing. And so no food besides gelatinous rich foods can replace collagen. So gelatin, collagen, foods that contain gelatin, like bone broth, oxtails, chicken feet, things like that. And obviously that would be eaten in a broth. But those are the foods that we're looking to tolerate. And if we can't tolerate them, usually that's a sign that there's some type of gut issues going on. Your Plan B story says it can last in the system for a long time. A friend took it but now wants a healthy pregnancy. She's 5 weeks. What would you encourage beyond typical pregnancy advice? Well, just understanding the point of Plan B. So, it's just a big dose of levonorgestrel, I believe, is the hormone. And so it's a progestin that has a lot of like estrogen-like properties and androgen-like properties, which is why a lot of women that take it end up having really irregular periods and irregular cycles for a while. They don't go back to ovulating right away. I'm not saying always, just this is sometimes what women claim. And so it definitely does deplete us of the same things that the birth control pill does, just on a much larger level. So we need to be really focused on the nutrients that we need, B vitamins. We need to make sure we're getting plenty of vitamin C and vitamin E. The minerals are very important, zinc and iodine, and making sure we're replenishing those things and then making enough progesterone. And 5 weeks is really early to know. So at this point, you kind of just, she should talk to her doctor about it if she's worried about that. That's definitely something she should talk to her doctor about for sure. And 5 weeks is kind of early to know if it affected the pregnancy or not. Hey Jess, can you talk about iron and acne, or point us to where it is to look about it? I don't know where you would find information on that. I'm just looking at the physiological aspects of iron. Remember we've been poisoned with iron since the beginning of our lives. If you ate Cheerios, if you ate Cinnamon Toast Crunch, if you ate any type of General Mills cereal for breakfast every day, you got 700% the amount of iron that you needed, little iron shavings. And then if you ate any regular fortified wheat products on top of that, you got even more. And so we literally were all poisoned with iron growing up, if you've ever eaten the standard American diet. And so we have to kind of keep that in mind, and that's going to affect everyone differently. So some people that can contribute to poor thyroid function, some people that's going to really encourage a sluggish liver, but a lot of people with acne, I do find have that connection. They were really heavy on the standard American foods, lots of like Twinkies and things like that as children. So when it comes to iron, you have to understand that iron feeds bacteria. That is a mineral that pathogens love to feed off of. And so when you have, for example, anemia, oftentimes people will just say, take iron, but you have to recognize that sometimes the body will actually lower iron to hide it from pathogens. And so a lot of people you'll see, or at least I see, that take iron supplementally get really bad digestive issues, parasites, bacterial overgrowth. Why? Because they're feeding the pathogens in their gut iron, and those pathogens are just loving it. So remember that acne does have that bacterial component in the skin, and if the liver and the kidneys are overloaded with iron, those are going to be the main two organs that are going to detoxify iron for you. But they will store as much iron as they possibly can until they can't anymore. And so this is why a lot of times liver support and gut health really does help with acne, is because it's actually helping with the detoxification of iron. And keep in mind that mineral, your body does not want to store that mineral in your brain. And so oftentimes that mineral will come out of your face and it will feed the pathogens there. So it's almost like, remember, if it's not coming out of the colon, if it's not being excreted from the kidney or the liver, what is your other major detox organ? That's going to be your skin. This is why a lot of times people will get acne on their face, but people can get acne on their back, on their butt, things like that. So the goal when it comes to acne, there is at least one iron component, and it is important to look at minerals in context with one another. So oftentimes people with iron issues are also copper deficient, they have vitamin C issues, they need magnesium, they need the other cofactors that are necessary for actually moving iron out of the body. What is the best way to support ovulation? I didn't ovulate this month, but I usually do. The best way is to keep stress down. So make sure we're sleeping well, make sure we're eating protein, carb, and fat every couple of hours, balancing our blood sugar, make sure we're eating enough calories, make sure we're not restricting carbohydrates or protein, and just overall being very mindful of our stress levels. A lot of people are stressed right now, and so it would make sense that people are skipping their ovulation. But I have a whole story highlight called progesterone that talks about things that we can do to actually boost our own progesterone production or ovulation. So remember, we only make progesterone when we ovulate. I've been increasing fruits. I've been consuming 150 grams of carbs, but 75 of sugar. Is that too much? LOL, I feel so much better, more energy, I sleep better, and I feel more balanced. Well, I'm going to ask you, is that too much, or are you feeling good? We need to stop taking advice from any outward people, and we need to start listening to our body. When people start giving rules and say like, oh, that's too much sugar, or this is too much this, that's where we get ourselves in trouble in the first place. And that's why I really just encourage you guys to nourish your body and really forget about the rules. Like, who cares how many grams of sugar you're consuming if your energy's better, you're sleeping better, you're feeling better overall? Like, who literally cares? I'm gonna try coffee enema for the first time. Any tips or things you wish you would have known the first time? I think it's just one of those things where it's like a mind over matter thing. For me, I'm not, like, I've done them so many times that I just, like, it's not a non-issue for me, but I know for a lot of people it's like a weird or like scary thing. So I think just kind of understanding it's going to be scary and weird the first time, just like anything is. But once you get over it, you're like, oh, that's it? Okay, like it's not that big of a deal. Remember that the temperature of the water does totally matter. We want it to be our body temperature. Like, you don't want it to be too cold or you'll get crampy, or too hot. Obviously, we'll burn ourselves. And then also, you know, if you have a bucket or a bag, the height that you hang it is important. The higher you hang it, the faster the water flows. And so if you're new, you kind of want the water flowing slowly so you can get used to that feeling, or you're gonna not be able to hold it. So I usually hang it from something that's gonna be a little lower, like a towel rack, but I do sometimes, if I'm in a hurry, I will hang it from like the shower rod with a hanger. So it just depends, but I would say for a beginner, it's probably not a good idea to do that. But yeah, for me, I didn't really know much about them. I just started doing them and I kind of figured it out as I went. How often do you take magnesium bicarbonate and how much? Personally, I'll take about half a cup of the concentrate, just kind of diluted in like my daily water. So I'm usually like drinking water throughout the day, or orange juice or something like that. And I'm going to dilute the magnesium bicarbonate in this. And this is probably, sometimes I'll drink like 2 of these a day when I'm really thirsty. And other days I'll drink like a third of this. I just kind of listen to my thirst signals. So most days I'm consuming half a cup of bicarbonate, but I'm not like forcing water down either. But you never want to consume the concentrate straight, or you're going to kind of hurt yourself. It just is like, really has digestive effects. Jess, I had my first thermography finding suspect dental foci, seeing a biological holistic dentist, but it seems with all their treatments suggest vegan anti-inflammation diet. Don't want to do that, but don't want to mess up treatment. Thoughts? If anyone told me to eat a vegan diet, I would laugh in their face. Like, it's not a biologically appropriate diet. I don't know, like, why a dentist would tell you to do that, because a vegan diet doesn't contain any vitamin A, D, E, or K, which is literally the vitamins we need to build strong, healthy teeth. So I don't exactly know what's going on. Dental foci, F-O-C-I, I've never heard of that before. But yeah, vegan diets are not anti-inflammatory diets. Do you recommend glutathione? What brand? I don't necessarily recommend it. It's not my favorite liver supportive supplement, but if I was gonna recommend it, I like Quicksilver Scientific's glutathione. Hi Jessica, do you know what could cause interstitial cystitis? Any idea why I get acne on my breasts? Usually interstitial cystitis has a lot to do with pelvic floor dysfunction. I find a lot of my clients have pelvic floor dysfunction, meaning that their pelvic floor is imbalanced. They need pelvic floor physio. If you've ever had children, probably pelvic floor issues, or if you've ever like done squats wrong or exercises wrong or had sexual trauma, things like that. Those are all things that can affect the pelvic floor. So it's important to kind of understand that when we sit down to pee, if we have pelvic floor imbalances, just meaning that certain muscles are tight, certain muscles might be loose, depending on what your unique situation is. Those muscles are being maybe over tightened or overstretched. You're sitting down to pee and then you're not getting all of the urine out. And so when you go and stand up, there's urine that goes back into the bladder. And so over time, you're not getting all of the urine out. And so there's bacteria that starts to kind of sit and inflame the bladder. And so a lot of women who have interstitial cystitis actually find that they pee, stand up, and then actually sit back down to pee and find that they'll actually pee a little bit more. And it's because the pee kind of went back up into the bladder. So it's important to kind of understand that could totally be a factor. And then the urinary tract really does depend on a very good bacterial balance. So we need to make sure that we're keeping our digestive tract as a whole balanced. Keep in mind that there are specific proteins in cranberries that actually can really help prevent bacteria from actually taking hold of the tissues. So you've probably heard of diagnose before. A lot of people will say like drink cranberry juice, and then a lot of people will be like, well, that's like not scientifically proven to help. But cranberries and that actually whole group of berries has been shown to actually prevent bacteria from grabbing onto tissue walls. And so what I'll do if I ever feel like I have urinary issues coming on, like a UTI, or a lot of clients will ask me like, hey, I feel a UTI coming on, I don't want to take antibiotics. Is there something that I could do to maybe try to stop it in its tracks? Usually what I'll have, or I'll say is like, make sure make yourself like a cranberry sauce, like what you would make around Thanksgiving with some sugar, some orange juice, and some cranberries, and eat a couple spoonfuls of that with every single meal. Also, add cranberry concentrate to your water. Make sure you're getting lots of cranberries. The wild blueberries that you can find at Trader Joe's, or if you can find them locally, that's awesome. Will also help with this. So making sure that we're getting those foods in regularly. If you have a predisposition to getting UTIs or having interstitial cystitis even, then you really want to make sure you're supporting that urinary tract all the time and doing things that are going to be supportive of that long term. But a lot of times it has a pelvic floor connection and a gut connection. Those are kind of the two things. And I don't do the pelvic floor stuff. That's a specialist you'd have to find. But the gut stuff is, making sure that the gut is balanced with like spore-based probiotics, cranberries, stuff like that. Which Aquasana water filter is comparable to the Precision water filter, trying to save money but do the right thing, as I have well water. I don't know about the Precision water filter off the top of my head. I've never heard of that brand, so I'm not really sure. I don't know what the equivalent would be. You kind of have to just do your own research when it comes to water filters and pick what's right for you. You know what's in your water more than I do. You know kind of what type of water. If you're on well water, you probably have harder water. So you kind of need to figure out what's going to be best for your situation and not really worry about, what filter that person has. Figure out what you need, because every area of the world is going to have different things present in the water, and so you're going to have to figure out what does the filter that you're looking at actually filter, and does it filter what you need to be filtered out of your water. Just wanted to say I had awful crying period pains and nausea throughout my entire cycle for months post-birth control. Since implementing everything you teach this past month, I finally had no pain during my period. Yay! That is what we like to hear. Congratulations, because you did all that work, but I'm so glad that I could play a small part. Thoughts on consuming colostrum? Do you know of any benefits, drawbacks immediately or long-term? Personally, I use it a lot during gut protocols, usually like towards the end. It does increase IgG, it does increase the immune response. It's very, very immune supportive. So I do like colostrum for a lot of different effects and a lot of different things. Remember, colostrum is the first thing that nature gives children, babies, baby cows, baby goats. Colostrum is actually the first thing that comes out of the breast milk, or the breast, I should say, before breast milk. So that's the thing that actually goes into the baby's digestive tract and seals the gut, because babies are actually born with leaky guts, and then it kind of prepares the way for this implementation of bacteria, because remember, real milk has bacteria in it and prebiotics as well, so milk should go in and actually inoculate the gut and also feed those bacteria so that they can continue to grow. Keto helps so much with my acne, but I am now all in this way of eating, glucose for energy, but my cystic cyclical acne has come back. Why is this? It's probably a digestive dysfunction that happened in the first place. So are you doing the raw carrot salad every single day? Usually a spore-based probiotic is very helpful. And then also keep in mind that when it comes to acne getting better on keto, which you're not alone, many women have experienced the same thing. Then they think like, keto was so much better for me. And I was like, well, if your acne came back, you didn't heal the problem. It was always there. It just was suppressed. And so we have to keep in mind that bacteria, when we have a really bad overgrowth of bacteria in the digestive tract, those bacteria are giving off something called lipopolysaccharides, or endotoxins. Endotoxins are toxic substances that need to be detoxified from the body to protect us. And when we have too much of these substances coming from the gut and going and burdening the liver is now very burdened with these endotoxins. And if the liver does not have what it needs, is very, very backed up, you will find that there needs to be another way that this junk comes out, and it will often come out through our other large detox organ, the skin. So look to where your acne is concentrated. Acne maps and face mapping is very, very true. If it's forehead related, it's usually liver and gut. If it's chin and jaw area, it's oftentimes hormonal. So liver, we need to make sure we're supporting our liver. But if acne comes back after keto, I usually make sure that my client is eating a raw carrot salad at least once a day, if not twice a day, doing tons and tons of gelatin-rich foods, and doing a spore-based probiotic. Sometimes even doing an IgG support. So Just Thrive, the spore-based probiotic that I love and use pretty frequently with clients, has a supplement called IgG, which calms the immune system down. They also have a prebiotic called Precision Prebiotic that can be very, very helpful at strategically feeding certain types of bacteria and allowing them to get to grow so that they can overtake the bad bacteria. But if that doesn't help, if those things don't help, you kind of have to dig deeper. And at that point, you kind of want to look, you would maybe want to consider like a Dutch test, maybe even a GI map to kind of at least see what's going on in your digestive tract and with your hormones. Because oftentimes acne has a lot of different things that are playing a role. It's not just one thing, but it's usually detoxification is impaired overall, and figuring out why that is the biggest thing. But keto often will minimize any gut related issues because you're kind of starving certain bacteria. Hey Jess, hope you're doing well. What are your thoughts on taking a few drops of iodine daily for general health? I think personally I do take 5 drops of iodine per day because I need it. I've done an HTMA on myself every couple of months, and I continue to need iodine. I don't think it's for everybody, and I think everyone should be very, very cautious and kind of like careful with it. And if you haven't ever heard of the book or read the book called Iodine, Why You Need It and Why You Can't Live Without It, I highly recommend it. It's by Dr. Brownstein, just so you have a good kind of baseline as to, okay, this is why I'm supplementing it. These are the things to look out for. But yeah, I think it can be very, very helpful for a lot of people. Some people do find that it kind of gives them some symptoms, or it maybe pushes their thyroid health in the wrong direction if they have really bad mineral levels. That's why I always work on things like magnesium and calcium, sodium, potassium, and vitamin C first with clients, but I know that you've really been working on those levels, and so you probably would maybe do better with iodine than somebody that's coming in with very, very low levels of all minerals. But I highly recommend doing a little research on it so you're going into it with eyes wide open rather than just kind of supplementing and forgetting about paying attention to any symptoms that it might cause, because it is a very powerful mineral. If we take vitamin C supplements, does the body absorb the entire dose taken? Is the intravenous high dose better? What form, if one uses IV forms, still avoid ascorbic acid forms? That's kind of something that everyone has to do research on for themselves. A lot of people are proponents of ascorbic acid. I personally am not, just because of how it's processed. I know a lot of supplements are just processed poorly nowadays. When it comes to vitamin C, your body usually utilizes what it needs. If you're deficient, then often, your body's going to use a lot of it, but it is going to be water soluble, so you'll pee it out if you don't end up using it. So I'm sure if people are getting it intravenously, probably not using all of it, but your body's going to use what it needs and get rid of the rest. Any recommendations about water, alkaline? Have you heard of AquaTrue machine that filters water? Thanks. Never heard of AquaTrue. Alkaline water is horrible for you. Remember, your stomach acid is supposed to be really, really acidic. It's what protects you from things like parasites and bacteria. And when you constantly drink something that's alkaline, oftentimes over time, it will actually neutralize your stomach acid. That's not always the case. Alkaline machines are often not going to alkalinize the water as well as they say they do. So don't stress about it. It'll most likely just be more of a scam. But what you're looking for is something that's going to clean your water out of all the junk that they put in it, like chlorine and fluoride and stuff like that, and then also re-implement the minerals that are supposed to be there in the first place. Personally, if I was to do it again, I would get the Pristine Hydro filter. I still have my eye on it. It's just not kind of in the budget right now. But that's what I would get if I could get any water filter in the world. But you kind of have to look at your budget. I know that a lot of people are talking about something called Purely Filtered. I had a friend that recommended it just because she was saying, or not recommended it to me, but I was talking to her about it, and she was mentioning it as a good alternative, kind of like as a bridge water filter. If you're trying to get to a point where you could afford maybe the Pristine Hydro, but you can't right now, doing something like a refrigerator filter that's purely filtered, or a pitcher that you can at least get some type of filtering in your water is a really good way to kind of bridge your way to a more expensive and high quality water filter. But yeah, If I was to choose anything, I would probably choose the Pristine Hydro, and if not, I would choose something a little bit lower budget and then be looking towards something like that. But I know a lot of people like the Berkey filter. Honestly, I'm not sure how good they are. I know that a lot of people have done tests before and after and seen great results, so you kind of have to just do water research for yourself, and then also keep in mind like what can you afford, what's in the budget, what's not going to stress you the hell out and make you feel like you're really stretching or reaching. You want to make sure that you are doing something that you can afford and what's good for your family right now. Would you consider the Pristine Hydro water filter to be worth it? Is the Aqua Gear comparable? No, I mean, any type of pitcher is not going to be comparable at all. A pitcher is kind of a good place if you're in a place where you can't install something, you maybe need something small, it's just you can't afford a bigger system, but a pitcher cannot filter everything that needs to be filtered from our water, unfortunately. But yeah, I totally would consider the Pristine Hydro filter, and I'm definitely, once my water filter is pretty old, so it will give out at some point, and I'm going to switch it out with the Pristine Hydro. Never thirsty and hands and feet always cold. Sounds like a metabolic issue, We talk about a lot how when we're not thirsty, our body's not regulating hydration well, so a healthy body with healthy thyroid function tends to evaporate about 1 liter of water from the skin, and then of course hydrate our cells as needed. If we have high adrenaline, we'll find ourselves peeing a lot, right? We're peeing, it's a diuretic, or we'll find ourselves just really not thirsty with low thyroid function. Also, if our hands and feet are always cold, our circulation is possibly low, so those are just things to keep in mind. I don't know your situation, I don't really know what your question is, but when I hear those things, those are the things that I kind of think about. I'm just looking out the window because I hear military planes. I live by a big military base. Salt. Thoughts on canning, pickling kind of salt? Kate Deering mentions that kind, minimum amount of salt we need daily. Yeah, like a Morton's canning salt, but sea salt's also a really good source of salt. Anything that's going to be a white salt is going to be as pure as possible. Minimum amount that we need daily really depends on what we need. Oftentimes our body will actually crave salt when we need it, and it's a very necessary mineral. So we kind of want to do salt to taste. We don't want it to taste too salty. We want it to taste really good and refreshing and satisfying. I recently heard eating refined sugar lowers the immune system for several hours afterwards. Can you share any insight on as to why? This is totally baloney. This is so crazy to me. I get so pissed off when I hear stuff like this because I always refer to the sick game of telephone that is the health and wellness community, and it really makes me angry because somebody will say refined sugar is bad, and then somebody will say some BS comment like refined sugar lowers your immune system, and then somebody will take it and run with it. That's definitely not true. I get really angry when I hear that, and I've had multiple people ask me that, but I'll just settle that once and for all. Your immune system is strengthened when your body is not stressed out. Keep that in mind, guys. If we are stressed out, our immune system does not function properly. Our immune system only works optimally when our bodies are at rest. And so we need to keep that in mind. What does sugar do, you guys? It's a sedative. It helps relax our adrenal response. We don't have to make sugar because we're consuming sugar. So when we are not making sugar, our cortisol and adrenaline levels are not high, and so therefore our immune system is functioning optimally. Our thyroid is functioning optimally. Our thyroid plays a huge role in immune system function. And there's so much research that actually shows a constant high state of stress actually eats our thymus gland. Remember, your thymus gland is literally what runs your immune system. So that is totally false. It's so crazy. If you actually do the research on sugar, it was created by traditional Chinese medicine. They actually used it as medicine. The ancient Chinese people are who created sugar, and they created it as a very potent medicine. And so we just have to keep that in mind. There's so much weird stuff going on around. I just saw this huge doctor post about how dairy should never be a part of our regular diets. And then I saw him literally in the same post commenting back and saying, like, I'm still wondering why human beings eat it or crave it or feel like they need it. And I'm like, do you listen to yourself? Like, do you hear yourself? There's a reason why human beings crave dairy and not your nasty ass nut juice. You know what I mean? Like, why are we blending hazelnuts with water and acting like that's an equivalent to a nutrient dense food that grows, helps babies grow? And I just don't understand. Like, there's like a science blockage. Like, I feel like your brain that learned how to think critically is just like block, 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 like denied. Like, there's something going on. Like, people can't use their common sense, and it's definitely not science. Like, I'm just like, this is not science. This is really bad. Like, it's almost like gossip in a sense. Like, oh my gosh, did you hear that so-and-so said like sugar lowers the immune system? And it's like, oh my gosh, I know, guys, like sugar lowers the immune system. Like, I just can't stand it. I have high DHEAS. Is that linked to high estrogen? I read that high DHEAS and normal estrogen or testosterone is because of adrenal issues. Is that true? My testosterone is normal. My DHEAS is high. DHEAS is sulfated DHEA. And whenever DHEA is sulfating a lot, keep in mind sulfating is almost like the storage form of DHEA. Oftentimes sulfation happens mostly in the gut. And so when people have a high DHEAS, they often have a lot of stress on the body. Adrenals are overproducing that adrenal androgen. And then in addition, they have gut issues, gut inflammation, digestive issues, and we know that stress and gut issues go hand in hand, so that's going to make sense. But yes, it is often caused and driven by stress, and then gut issues are going to be kind of that second factor that I'm going to look into often. And what can you do when you have high DHEA? Thank you, Jess. You would follow everything on my page to get your stress levels down. Eat every 3 to 5 hours. Make sure you're getting 100 grams of protein a day. Make sure you're not under eating carbohydrates. You're eating about 150 to 200 grams. Making sure you're getting 8 to 10 hours of sleep at night. You're making sure you get sunlight. All the stuff that I talk about in my online program, Fully Nourished, definitely applies to people that have high DHEA, because high DHEA is really a stress issue. And the adrenal glands need a lot of nutrients, specifically like sodium and potassium, vitamin C, which is why I run a hair tissue mineral analysis on every single one of my clients, is because I know where your hormones are at. That's not that helpful though, because we know where your hormones are at. Great. Now what do we actually do about it? Why is the body what's happening is it's adapting to a stressor. So why does it need to do that? And oftentimes it's from being deficient in a lot of minerals. Pretty commonly the adrenal issues have sodium, potassium, vitamin C are pretty depleted. What are your thoughts on the CLF protocol? I think it's funny. It's like now it's like a protocol. I've done something similar with clients for a long time. Vitamin K, making sure we're getting a lot of body work, doing systemic enzymes to break down inflammation, making sure we're doing spore-based probiotic or raw carrot. I think it's powerful in the sense of it's working on root causes, but I don't know what to say, because it's like, yeah, now it's a protocol, but yeah, all the factors in the CLF protocol have been around for a lot longer, and a lot of people have been using that before it became like this protocol. Having major sugar candy cravings while pregnant, anything to help that? Eat some sugar. Your body needs carbohydrates for sure. Melatonin was low on Dutch test. I take a really low dose once in a while, but always wake up super sleepy the next morning, like a melatonin hangover. Thoughts? Melatonin is awful for our metabolism. It literally suppresses our metabolism and our thyroid function. I hate melatonin. I used to take it all the time, and now that I know about melatonin, I'm like, wow, I literally destroyed my brain for probably like a couple of years worth of my life taking melatonin. But when melatonin's low on a Dutch test, all that means is most likely the gut is affected. Also keep in mind, the pineal gland makes melatonin as well. Pineal gland is affected by things like fluoride. So if you do consume or have consumed a lot of tap water in the past, or don't filter your water, that could be a huge factor. But a lot of times melatonin being low is totally a gut issue. And you always want to focus on making your own and never taking it, because it just wrecks the metabolism. And it also really affects how we make our own. Like, making our own is awesome. Taking it, not awesome. Sorry, I was trying to clarify that. Would high-dose vitamin C via intravenous be a great way to help the body? Does it matter if it's from ascorbic acid? That's something you kind of have to like do on research on your own. I've done intravenous treatments in the past. I'm not like, oh my gosh, they're amazing, but they do definitely give you like a burst of energy. But I really wouldn't be going anywhere like a IV bar right about now. I wouldn't want anything going intravenously in me unless I absolutely needed them or needed it. If someone has a dairy lactose intolerance, what is your favorite source of fat-soluble vitamins? If someone is dairy and lactose intolerant, they have problems. They probably have progesterone issues, possibly thyroid issues, and or small intestinal bacteria overgrowth, very oftentimes. Usually I'll recommend trying goat's milk or sheep's milk or some type of A2 dairy before just writing it off as a lactose intolerance, because nothing is like dairy. Literally nothing. There's nothing that can replace dairy. Unless you are really, really allergic to it, there's usually a gut issue. And then oftentimes people who are allergic to dairy, and I talk about this a lot, or say they're lactose intolerant or blah, 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 are eating tons of foods that are irritating their digestive tract on a regular basis. So when they go and eat dairy, they get symptoms and they say, oh my gosh, I'm lactose intolerant, I have a dairy intolerance. And I'm like, no, you're eating way too many leafy greens, way too many nuts and seeds, you're eating tons of cruciferous vegetables, which are irritating your digestive tract on a daily basis, and then you're putting dairy in the picture and you're blaming the dairy. Clean up those foods, stop irritating your digestive tract so much and feeding tons and tons of bacteria, and then try the dairy. And most likely you won't be lactose intolerant anymore. But really nothing replaces the dairy. And the goal is always, please try to get some dairy in. Like, oh please, even if it's just some Parmesan cheese, which is often tolerated pretty well. If dairy is absolutely out of the picture, then vitamin K, taking a fat-soluble vitamin like vitamin K is usually okay, but taking things like vitamin D and vitamin A and mostly vitamin D and vitamin A can come with some very serious consequences, and so supplementing them is really not a good idea. It can, vitamin D can cause hypercalcemia oftentimes, and then vitamin A, of course, is a fat-soluble vitamin that can really lead to toxicity quickly. So I usually try to get my clients eating some type of Parmesan cheese or goat's milk, and most of them, even the most severe digestive disordered people, can handle them. And that's a great way to get some fat-soluble vitamins in if you can't tolerate other dairy. But honestly, the goal, you guys, is to tolerate dairy. Like, that should be a goal, a dietary goal of yours. If it's not, and you restrict dairy or you cut it out of your diet, you have huge nutritional puzzle pieces that you're missing. Hi Jess, do you have any suggestions for curing laryngopharyngeal reflux for a person who eats clean and got this basically out of nowhere? When it comes to reflux, oftentimes it's low stomach acid. I've never heard of the difference between like laryngopharyngeal and like a regular reflux, so maybe I'm wrong. But any type of reflux is often low stomach acid that needs to be addressed. But I don't know, because oftentimes people with stomach acid that I'm working with have way bigger issues. They think acid reflux is their issue, and then we actually dive deeper and it's like, oh, we've got way bigger issues at play. So I don't know, everything that I would say about that is like speculation, but usually doing like some apple cider vinegar and stuff like that, like ginger tea, can be very supportive of stomach acid levels. I'm currently taking digestive enzymes and probiotics with little relief. How about stomach acid, like hydrochloric acid? That's something that I would definitely do research on the tie between low stomach acid and acid reflux. Did you do a product review for the at-home thyroid hormone test you did a few months back? Any other brands you recommend? I usually like Life Extension lab tests because they actually are, they send you a kit, you take it to LabCorp, and you send it into, and you get the results. I like it better. The Paloma Health Kit was okay. They don't give you every thyroid marker though, and that's the problem in the first place. I think they gave you like TPO antibodies, T4, free T3, but I don't think they gave me reverse T3, which I didn't like, which is a very important marker of stress. And what else did they miss? I missed something else. So overall, it wasn't my favorite test, and I honestly still prefer the Life Extension lab test. Remember, guys, Life Extension is a great resource if you want to do at-home lab tests, and they have all types of panels, amazing panels. It can be a good idea to quit starch of my diet and eat only carbs from sugar, fruit juices, and honey. I did that for a very long time when I had gut issues, cut all starch from my diet. I had horrible gut issues coming out of keto. Literally horrible. I felt nauseous all the time. I was severely bloated. If anyone's had this SIBO bloat, you know you literally look like 10 months pregnant. And I mean 10 months. Like, you are looking like you're ready to pop. And I literally sometimes would want to, like, I was like, I wish I could pierce my stomach like a balloon to just, like, relieve myself because I was so bloated. It was just so uncomfortable. So I personally, part of my gut healing regimen was avoiding starch at all costs or knowing my starch limits. So I could do potatoes, but I definitely couldn't do grains, definitely couldn't do sweet potatoes, definitely couldn't do any, like, starchy root vegetables. The only thing I could do was well-cooked potatoes. I knew that was like my limit, so that was something that I kind of just knew. I also knew that I had to eat a raw carrot every time I ate starch or I would be, like, physically in pain. So those were kind of the things that I did, but I got most of my carbs from honey, sugar, and fruit juices, not even fruit, because fruit was also a problem for me, and I'm pretty much as good as new. I still have a little bit of sensitivity, but I've always had a sensitive gut, but yeah, I definitely quit starch for a while. Dental foci on Google says, usually is a localized chronic infection that under certain circumstances may result in severe or local or systemic disease. Are they talking about maybe like an infected root canal or something like that? Or just like an infection in the mouth? Some good books you could recommend during this time for PCOS gut issues and inflammation. From PMS to Menopause is an amazing eye-opening text that you can get through. It's pretty long, but hey, you're stranded, so just print it out and put it in a binder and read it that way. I've done that. You can actually download it from the internet. It's very difficult to find, like on Amazon or something like that, but I think it is available for free. And then that's by Dr. Ray Peat. Once a Month by Dr. Katharina Dalton is also another very enlightening and eye-opening book. I really like that. And then I also love the book called The Fuck It Diet. And I can't remember the author now. I'm like spacing, but that's just such a great eye-opening book. So many people are on they're chronic dieters, and it's just always jumping from one diet to another and constantly focused on changing the shape of their body. And it's just so exhausting. Like, I just don't understand why you would want to spend your whole life doing that. Like, yeah, eat well, try to be healthy, make sure that you're in optimal health, but stop like spending your whole life trying to change the shape of your body that your body clearly doesn't want you to change. It's like a great enlightening book. I really like that book as well. I've never even had a cavity and or a root canal, but I have caps and mercury, I'm sure. Anytime you go to like some weird practitioners and they start to recommend some weird shit, just, you guys always be discerning. I think like I've gone through stuff like that before where like a biological dentist literally wanted to like scam me of like $7,000 because I had like apparently structural issues and my bite was wrong, and it like can make you feel like, oh my gosh, like I have something wrong with me, but like take a step back and just like make sure you're looking at the whole picture and you're not, maybe being like not scammed. I think these people truly believe in what they're doing, but at the same time, like, so if you have mercury and you have like if you've never had a cavity or a root canal, maybe look into like supporting your microbiome or, dealing with your mercury and stuff like that. Like, those are things that I wouldn't stress about. I don't even know what a dental, what'd you call it? FICA is? It's weird. I've never heard of that in my life. Also, thoughts on the whole celery juice hype. Celery juice is very rich in certain minerals, specifically sodium and potassium, which many people are very deficient in. Remember, sodium and potassium are needed to make stomach acid, so people are drinking celery juice and they're like, oh my god, my digestive issues are healed. And I'm like, yeah, because you had low stomach acid, dumbass. So I don't really, remember celery juice oftentimes is grown with tap water, so here you are thinking you're being like, oh, you're drinking your organic celery juice, yet like that celery just sucked up a bunch of municipal municipal tap water, like, yummy. Like, I'm just like, why don't you just drink fruit juice instead, or like, you know, do like an adrenal cocktail or something like that. Like, get sodium and potassium in a different way. Coconut water is a great source of potassium. No celery juice needed. Now, some people swear by it and they absolutely are like, I could never live without it. But personally, I think that it is not the heal-all that everyone thinks it is. Sorry, not sure if you answered this before, but what has helped your clients that have hormonal imbalance due to tubal ligation? Oftentimes they need to supplement progesterone just because their bodies aren't making enough, but it really depends on the person. Some people with tubal ligation have really bad estrogen issues. They're not detoxifying it well, so we have to deal with that. Some people just aren't making enough progesterone for whatever reason. So I always take a food first approach with any hormonal issues, always focusing on nutrient dense foods, oftentimes balancing minerals, getting heavy metals, working on heavy metals if that's necessary. We're always looking to support the whole body, get red light, making sure a proper exercise routine, yada yada yada. But if at some point you're not making enough progesterone, then sometimes it's just necessary to supplement it for a while. And sometimes your body does go back to making enough and you don't need to supplement it anymore. And sometimes you just need it. Or you feel better with a little bit supplemented. So it just kind of depends on the person and what steps you're taking. But a lot of people with tubal ligation end up liking bioidentical progesterone. Hi Jess, I'm extremely sensitive to carrots after a concussion, and I'm wondering if there are any other support I can do in place of that. Bamboo shoots are also thought to be a great way to detox estrogen, like cooking them and making like a salad out of them. I personally have only cooked them once and I wasn't like a big fan, but I know they're a very powerful and detoxifying fiber. And then well cooked mushrooms that have been boiled for an hour or two and cut into maybe some small pieces can also be very supportive of the gut. But yeah, interesting about being sensitive to carrots after a concussion. Activated charcoal. Oh yeah, activated charcoal can help. It's just important to like not overuse activated charcoal because it binds to everything. It's an adsorbent, so it adsorbs to everything. But yeah, activated charcoal can bind to a lot of things in the digestive tract. You just have to take it away from supplements and away from meals to make sure you're absorbing all the nutrients from your food. Hey, do you mind sharing your pancake recipe for the milk powder protein pancakes you make? Yeah, I would love to share that. I'll actually just make them in the morning and share it in a post. How's that? Take a picture of them, just so that everyone can benefit from that milk powder. Yeah, and you can easily, trying to think of who has a good recipe. The nutrition coach in Australia, I believe her website might be thenutritioncoach.com or something like that. I think that's where I first heard about milk powder pancake recipes. You can try that. But yeah, I will definitely post them on my feeds tomorrow. I've been meaning to make those. Can you upload beginner workout videos, IGTV, for women with PCOS? Don't really know where to start. Yeah, of course. I can even show you guys the workout I've been doing. I've simply been doing like 100 squats, 100 lunges, and like 5 1-minute planks. Just because I'm stuck at home. I really actually like to go to the gym. It's like gets me out of the house just because I work from home. And so not having a gym has been really sad for me. So I've been like trying to make sure I'm working out. Usually if I don't go to the gym, I don't work out consistently just because I don't really like working out at home. But I've been having to do it, obviously. But yeah, I can definitely. You look beautiful. I love that color on you. Thank you, Wendy. I hope you are well. Why do some people see a decrease in their acne when they cut out dairy, even though you believe our bodies need dairy? Just a reduction of acne means nothing. That's the funniest thing to me is like when you cut something out and you see a reduction in your acne, but then you put it back in and your acne comes back. It didn't fix the problem. The problem is still there. If you're reacting to foods, the problem is still there. And that's why it's very important to understand that maybe dairy will offer short-term relief, But over time, often people that cut dairy are calcium deficient. They're not getting enough calcium. They lack those fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin A, D, and K. They start to see problems over time pop up because they're no longer eating dairy. And so sometimes cutting it out for a short term can be helpful, of course. And I'm not saying like eat nasty, crappy, like really processed dairy. But you want to actually deal with the problem. You don't want to just cut something out and be like, oh, I fixed my problem, because it didn't fix the problem. Usually, if dairy is causing acne, there's digestive issues at play. Often women with acne have low progesterone, which is going to affect the way that we make our lactase enzymes. Remember, lactase enzyme is needed to break down lactose, which is the special sugar in milk. So we actually need progesterone to make that enzyme. And so oftentimes women with acne will have low progesterone, they have poor metabolic function or poor thyroid function, which again affects your ability to break down lactose. And then in addition, there's often lots of bacterial overgrowth in the small intestine. And so something as simple as eating a raw carrot salad every single day can be very, very helpful at minimizing overgrowth of bacteria in the digestive tract and helping us tolerate foods that we couldn't tolerate before. They also preach about cancer and sugar, how they use glucose on PET scans. What's your info on that, Jess? Best nutrition for cancer, juicing. It really does depend on the cancer. Personally, I can't really talk about that a lot here. It's a very controversial subject, but yeah, it's just very important to understand that like not all sugar is created equal, and lots of cancer cells actually love to eat free fatty acids. Testing AMH and FSH for a cycle after miscarriage, can that throw those levels off? I'm sure it can. A lot of people that have miscarriages have hormones that are all over for a couple of cycles, so it definitely could. I'm not saying that it absolutely did, but it's possible that a miscarriage could have affected that. I remember you mentioning oregano and its benefits, but forgot what you said. Can you please share? Yeah, oregano, which is P73, it's a concentrated form from wild oregano, is very powerfully immune supportive. It can help clear bacteria from the digestive tract. Personally, I take it every day during just like this season, just cold and flu season. But yeah, it's very immune supportive. It's amazing for all types of gut issues, but also just immune support. Which vegetables and fruits are okay to but not organic? What vegetables and fruits are okay to not buy organic? Make sure you're looking on the EWG, Environmental Working Group website. There's something called the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen, and I usually go by that. I never, ever buy the Dirty Dozen not organic. And I will just opt to not buy them at all if they're too expensive, and then I'll buy something that's the Clean 15 instead. How do you use red light therapy? I bought one of the cheaper ones on Amazon. You just use it. You plug the bulb in, you plug the light in, you just park it on your body and then chill underneath it for like 15 minutes. It's not, the red light, I know you guys get really confused, but it's not like rocket science. It's just, get red light on your skin like you would bask in the sun. We don't always ask like, hey, how do I like get sunlight on my skin? Like it's just, you just go in the sunlight. After implementing Ona's oil, did you notice your tolerance to digest dairy increased? It wasn't the only thing. Like my tolerance to dairy, I regained my tolerance to dairy when I stopped eating so much vegetables. I was always eating so many vegetables when I was like strict paleo. So much greens and so many cruciferous vegetables. I was having cruciferous vegetable with like lunch and dinner. I was doing so many nuts and seeds, and now I don't do any of that crap, and I can digest anything no problem. So I think it was mostly that. It was irritating my gut more than like my progesterone levels. I've been taking bioidentical progesterone for like almost 7 years now because I had so many issues post-birth control, and I'm always wary and scared to stop taking it. Hey Jess, hope you're well. Hey Amber, I hope you're well too. Why would sweet potatoes cause digestive issues like gas and bloating? I thought I've heard you say that. Feels like every evening gives me gas. I've tried digestive enzymes, but they don't help. You kind of want to stay away from the stuff that does cause you gas. Personally, sweet potatoes have a fiber in them that I find a lot harder to digest than regular potatoes. Personally, with clients that have really bad digestive issues, we limit starches to just skinless potatoes. And the potatoes have to be cooked incredibly well. Many people undercook their sweet potatoes too. They think they're cooked, and I'm like, no, they need 10 more minutes. So that's another thing to kind of keep in mind. But I find that sweet potatoes are way harder to digest than just regular russet white potatoes. And I think it has to do with like the beta carotene content, the antioxidant content. The more colors, the more polyphenols, so the more the bacteria will be fed. And if you have really bad bacterial overgrowth issues, then the more colors will actually probably make the issues worse. When you know PCOS is present, is Dutch test still necessary? High androstenedione, COMT, already known. Would HTMA be recommended first over Dutch? It sometimes is helpful. I usually always do an HTMA first, and then if I'm having a problem getting a client to feel better doing minerals, then I do like to see a Dutch test. I do think a Dutch test is more comprehensive than most hormone tests that can be run, and I like to see the phase 1, phase 2 detox, but I don't think it's necessary, and I only require certain clients to run it if like they're kind of hitting a wall. But no, personally, I think HTMA is always more important because I don't focus on individual symptoms. I don't care if this, such and such hormone is high or this is low. It's great insight. It's very helpful. It's a tool for me for sure. I can kind of say like, oh, well, this is high, so that shows me that the liver is really, struggling here. But overall, HTMA all the way, because I focus way more on nutrients more than I focus on treating symptoms. I don't treat symptoms. I'm focusing on supporting your body as a whole, and the more that I know about what's going on inside your body is helpful, but I don't really, at the end of the day, I don't really focus on that. I focus on what can we do to take as much burden off your body and give your body all the support that it needs. Acne on the back, always an iron issue, usually, for sure. It has bacterial components, but oftentimes I look to iron first. Tips for estrogen dominance: did a creating balance health test, horrible hair loss, dandruff, and weight gain. I'm plant-based, but eat 100 grams of protein a day. How do you eat 100 grams of protein being plant-based? You can't. It's impossible. If you're plant-based and you have estrogen dominance, it's because you're plant-based. And I know that really sounds maybe harsh, but I highly recommend watching my vegan story highlight as to why vegan and plant-based diets actually lead to further hormonal issues over time. But it's impossible to get enough bioavailable protein from a vegan diet. And a lot of people say like, oh, I'm eating lots of nuts and seeds, I'm eating beans, I'm eating grains. Okay, all those foods are estrogenic. So estrogen dominance right there. Soy, estrogen. So we have all these estrogenic foods being eaten, and then of course there's estrogen dominance because we're eating phytoestrogens constantly for our protein, not getting enough protein, and so that's impairing how our liver is detoxifying because our liver requires glycine. Only place you can get glycine, collagen, gelatin. Our liver requires, glutamine. Very hard to get glutamine from a vegan diet. We absolutely need it from animal foods. Taurine. So, I could go on and on and on, but my story highlight talks about that in depth a lot more. But my biggest tip for someone that has estrogen dominance is in plant-based: eat animal protein. Anything different we should do in pregnancy than your normal recommendations? Not really. You never want to focus on any type of harsh detox. When you're pregnant, you never want to take special herbs or anything unless they're cleared by your midwife or your doctor. But overall, not really. This is fertility, nutrition. That's kind of what I'm all about, even if I don't say that. The only thing that we want to keep in mind is our needs for protein do increase. Remember, amino acids are the building block of tissue. We have a rapidly growing baby that is made up of tissue growing, so we need to make sure that we are providing those building blocks necessary, and so our protein needs do go up, and if we don't increase our protein, we can often find that we feel morning sickness. And then just making sure that we're eating plenty of times throughout the day. If we're getting morning sickness, oftentimes it's a salt deficiency. We do need those minerals: sodium, potassium, magnesium, and we just need to make sure blood sugar stays balanced. We're nourishing, enough. But nothing really changes. The body knows what it's doing. Okay, I have 2 more minutes, so I'll answer as many as I can, but if Instagram cuts me off, that's why. I drink a coconut milk, spinach, kale, leafy green, blueberry, coconut, tart cherry juice, and avocado smoothie. Ooh. Any recommendations substitute for leafy greens? I don't know. Ew, that sounds so gross. If I was gonna do leafy greens, I would make sure that they were steamed and cooked really well if I was gonna put them in the smoothie. But usually I just recommend clients just omit. Like, please, plead, omit. But yeah, that's really what I would say. I mean, maybe some more frozen fruit. Unrelated, but do you have a go-to list of apps or tools to use when getting started online? I don't. There's a girl named Rebel Nutrition who has a really good list of tools. What was the book? From PMS to Menopause by Dr. Ray Peat, and The Fuck It Diet is another one. I forget who it's by, and then Once a Month by Dr. Katharina Dalton. Can you eat different foods with the carrot salad, like an egg? Yeah, you can do whatever you want. Would a stool test for parasites also pick up any bacteria overgrowth? It depends on what stool test you're using. I use a GI map, so yeah, it definitely would. I had horrible bloating last year while following a new protocol, and I was always hungry, so did a stool test, but it came back clear. Well, it just depends on what type of stool test you did. You want a very comprehensive stool test, not just any stool test. I have trouble digesting yogurt and don't have trouble with other dairy. Probiotics cause me bloating too. Have you ever heard about fermented food sensitivity? Oh yeah, fermented foods can wreck some people for sure. Just don't eat them.